All right, Dr. Davey, ready to kick us off?
Okay, Mrs. Boyce, welcome. Mrs. Giro, welcome. Mrs. Saunders, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know this is as per our budget calendar, our budget committee meeting. So for our 3 board members, and then our other attendees, which is our cabinet members. We're so pleased everyone's here this evening, and thank you. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Mr. Bell. And I know there'll be a chance to ask questions, but if there are questions, please jump in. You can raise your hand or just ask the questions. We'll turn it over and start moving into the agenda now. And I would also say Mrs. Myers is not here this evening. Her daughter is involved in a regional sectional soccer game. So she's playing, her daughter's playing under the lights, I believe at Plattsburgh High School locally. So thank you and good luck to her and our team. Okay, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Dr. Davey. First item up, we wanted to look back at our January highlights from the meeting that's shared in your packet. And I'll ask Ms. Giro and Ms. Boyce, do you have the packet? Let's make sure that you're able to follow along with us. We try to put it in sequential order so we can just run through the pages for anyone that was virtual. On site here, they do have the paper copies. So if you need me to slow down, don't hesitate to shout, and I'd be happy to do so. Any questions, comments, thoughts? I know it's been a while since that last meeting. We're going to really talk a lot about today where we're at with that budget that was discussed in January and what the board approved subsequent to that meeting. Okay. Hearing none, we haven't, they're just highlights, they're not minutes, so we haven't been doing approvals on them here at this meeting. So we'll move forward to the next item, which is the budget process and timeline. We titled it 22-23 budget timeline. This previously was approved and shared with the board in August. This is our schedule for this school year, and as we progress through that budget of 22-23. Want to make sure that the group was familiar with it, had it in their hands, and then realize that our upcoming meetings that we have. So on November 30th will be our next meeting. So the end of this month, we have ISC on there. It's our conference center. We haven't renamed it, but we plan to meet here. There'll be a discussion, potentially of a hybrid if that's what this committee is looking for, the board's looking for. And then after that, we will have the meeting in January, on January 25th, 2022. Again, I plan to be here at our conference center. Any questions on the calendar? All right. We're going to dive into our divisional program and enrollment updates. I have the pleasure to go through them with you. The information comes from our team from Director Friedman, Director Slattery, our Assistant Superintendent Campbell, District Superintendent Davey, as well as our accountants. So we have Kobe Sistavich, Jess LeClaire, and Victoria Wilkins just resigned, and we're replacing her under the leadership of Christine Myers. All have had a hand in this. Those that work inside our divisions throughout our organization. So I'll be doing the speaking, sharing very positive news with this committee on how we're looking with our budget, but realize that it's been a team effort to get here, and these reports come from them. And I'll run through the division and entertain any questions. I'll pass that to our directors to answer. So CV Tech enrollment trends is the first item that we're sharing. October 1st used to be the lock-in date for enrollment in CV Tech. That changed when we switched to enrollment averaging. So our lock-in date is now December 1st, but October 1st is a really strong time to look at CV Tech data. And what you can see here and on this sheet is a total number we like to look at of 774 students on the bottom right-hand corner. And when you look at the history and you go back to 2012, you do not see a year as high as this. So really, really awesome news to share with this group. Typically, we'd be talking about a revenue windfall, and I'm going to switch to the next page in your packet, which is the enrollment averaging. And this is what does not cause a revenue windfall. it actually maintains that level of budget that was set through the board with board support at the beginning of the school year, and Director Freeman and team have managed that budget up until this point in time with the increased enrollment and holding budget flat. So really becomes a challenge, a good challenge to have because enrollment's up, and one that the teams had to be flexible in. Why we're sharing the enrollment average spreadsheet is because when you look at the June 16, 17, the enrollment average in that year was 589. Current, or when we built this in 2021, the last year was at 590. That was a high year for us, right? And we had celebrated that last year. Many different reasons why. One being the outstanding programming that we're providing to students, great opportunities that even during a pandemic, we've increased enrollment over prior years. Two being that the enrollment averaging helps districts with budgeting on a year-to-year basis and demotivates them from stopping students coming to CV Tech because of financial reasons, because they know what their budget is, they know what their cost is for CV Tech, and they're still willing to send those kids, even though it's a larger number they have in prior years, because they know it's going to be smoothed out over 5 years. It really has had a positive effect on the accessibility of our programming to students in our component districts. So having a high number, the number that we gave you previously includes multiple other students. So realize that we're not replacing a 588 with a 774, because that does include adult students. It includes individuals in our New Vision Applied Engineering, which runs separate of this formula. It includes our pre-CTE students as well. But we want to give you a show into what is CV Tech actually dealing with this year, and really show you the true whole numbers of our student population is way up. And it's fantastic for our community, fantastic for our region. It's been a very big challenge for our leadership of CV Tech and our staff of CV Tech. And they've risen to that challenge, and they're working through it on a day-to-day basis through a pandemic. So some very positive news there. Moving to the next page, 3.3, you're going to see the percent of juniors enrolled in CV Tech. So this is juniors and seniors in each of our school districts. And you can see again there, the percent at 38% of all juniors and seniors in our component school districts attend CV Tech. It just is phenomenal to see that growth. It's powerful to see our students committed to coming to our programs, our district supporting us. But again, a lot of it stems from our staff and the programs that are provided at CV Tech. So that wraps up the CV Tech portion. Michelle, I want to give you an opportunity. This is, your sweat, blood, and sometimes tears, right, have come through this to get us to where we are today. Anything you'd like to add to them?
No, we're thrilled. We're over the moon with the increased enrollment coupled with the upgrades to equipment that we've made over the last couple of years. We're starting to see, we're starting to fire on all 8 now, so we're seeing the drop that we've planted for the last 9 years, 8 years. I will share that we do have 21 adults in our daytime programs and an additional 22 in our LPN cohort. We have 50 students in our pre-CTE program. We budgeted for 29.
How many did you say in pre-CTE?
50.
50.
So we've got 46 in the Plattsburgh main campus and 4 in Mineville, but we're getting 2 more on Monday.
Excellent. Excellent.
So yeah, this is fabulous. So I did want to point out, when you had already mentioned, when you're looking at the 5-year enrollment averaging, the number that will be used will only be the CTE students, less the adult daytime, less the LPNs, less the pre-CTE, and less the New Visions Engineering for 1 more year. So it's still a higher number, and that will be good.
And we will share that with this budget committee. That locks in on December 1st. So when we have that final number, That's when we'll know how we're building our budget and what enrollment we're using in our enrollment averaging formula.
One other thing I just wanted to point out is if you look at that third sheet, 3 of 3, the sending rates of our districts, we have Northern Adirondack sending 69% of their available juniors and seniors. This is inclusive of our 11th or 12th graders that may be in a pre-CDE program, but one way, shape, or form participating in career technical education. I'd also like to point out the trend line going horizontally for Ticonderoga from 2010 to 2021. That is making a significant impact on our Mineville Center in a positive way.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for Director Friedman or our team?
So I'll just make a comment and say, Mrs. Friedman, I know you and Mr. Bell and our superintendents were really active in helping make this enrollment averaging happen. I know it had been tried in the past, the fact that it's paying dividends. The enrollment increase, especially to be at a total 38% is amazing. It's fantastic. And think of the opportunity for the students on average, but even some of our individual districts have really doubled down on their commitment to providing the students with this opportunity. And I think it's a combination of not only outstanding programs, an exciting learning environment, and also dynamic opportunities for beyond, their programs in school. So it really is, it's a win-win for the students, for their families, and for their futures. So I'm just so proud of everything that's happening and our programs moving forward. It's exciting.
Thank you, Dr. Davey. Moving to special education, more of us came out, I would add. However, we do not have enrollment averaging here. So our team's been working with a significant increase in enrollment. When we sat here last year at this time, we were sounding alarms. We were talking about enrollment being down. We were talking about potential classroom cuts to save our budget. We had a lot of discussions around special ed enrollment and working with Dr. Davey and Director Slattery and our management services team. We were able to hold firm. And I want to point out, because we rarely come back to this spreadsheet, and on 3-4, you see, I want you to look at the 2020 and 2021 run from September to June. When we were sitting here having our conversations last October, we were talking about 156 students. We ended with 166. And that's a big difference in special education when you're talking about enrollment costs of, anywhere from $45,000 to $85,000 per student. 10 students swing is a significant amount of money, either direction, up or down. We were able to hold firm. We knew we had students coming in. We thought districts were holding off a little bit because of the pandemic, and those students did come in. We had a smaller than normal surplus, but clearly you can tell why when we have enrollments of 156 for half the year, and then we get up to about 164 for the remainder of the year. Now, fast forward to this year, as we're setting our budgets, and at the time we're setting our budgets, we locked those in January, February timeframe. We had students of about 162, 163. We were planning for a slight increase. The 170 mark where we started the year was about where we were planning budget. And you can see in October, it already jumped up to 180.5 students in our special education program. So again, credit to the programs that we're providing. Our districts having need, and CVES and our special education division are stepping up to meet that need for our districts and our students, to provide them the services to help them move along in their educational career. It really is powerful to see and great to see. We break it down. The top section is our ITSP section. That's our highest tuition rate. You can see we have 5.5 students in there at this time. And it does max as 6. And if we need to go above that, we could have a variance. Our autism program has 28 students, up from last year. Our life skills program is at 65.5 students, and that is up by 9 students over last year. And then our academic behaviors classrooms are up 11 students over last year at the same exact time. So good increases across the board. Again, raises the same challenges that we face in CV Tech. We do have some additional revenues coming in. But one of the big challenges that Director Slattery and team have been working on is the related services that go with the additional students in their enrollment. And do we have enough to provide that service for those students to meet their needs? So you've seen some new postings come out, whether it be for occupational therapy or physical therapy, counseling services. We've had different needs because of the increased enrollment, and we are actively working with component districts. We know we have more students in the queue. Director Slattery is working, I think, daily with some of our chairs because they again, are looking to CVES to meet their needs, and we've been working to step up to do so. So a good enrollment position at this time, a very positive one. And with that, I'll ask Director Slattery if he has anything you'd like to add.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Bell. And yeah, I think you said it very well with our enrollment. We're really pleased. As of tomorrow, we'll have 185 students in programming. And so we have a new student starting tomorrow. That equates to 196 unique students. So we do have approximately 12 students in half-day programs. So typically those students work in the special ed division for half of the day, and then they're shared with tech in the pre-CTE program or in one of tech's other offerings. We also have one or two students that also go back to their home districts for half-day programming. So we're really pleased to be in this position. You said it well, it is training resources, and we are looking at bringing on really the related services that come with students, you know, in our programming to fit their needs. So we appreciate everyone's work and help with that. And yeah, I believe right now we're up 27 students from last year. So we're really pleased to be in that position.
You said 27, Mr. Slattery?
As of tomorrow, yes.
Wow.
Yes. And that 27 students really equates to one additional section of a classroom from last year to this year. We added a section in our academic programming. And that happens to be where we also have a waiting list, and really in those middle school grades right now.
Well, thank you for your leadership, your team's leadership, your staff, really providing high quality services. And I know, you know, it's reflective in the numbers and the increase. And I know you've also been working very closely with the CSE chairs, the Committee on Special Education chairs, and the special ed directors. Really provide the services students need, and look at innovative ways to provide better services and also continue to revamp and improve the model. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It really has been a team effort. We got a great leadership team in the division. Our faculty and staff are really amazing, the work they do each and every day. And then our component districts are excellent partners to work with. So really it's a regional effort.
Great.
Committee members, any questions for Director Slattery or our team?
Well, I'm going to assume that you have enough space. And you have the staff that you need, other than those specials that you're looking for.
Yeah, we're always hiring and recruiting, and it's similar in any district, you know what I mean, right now during the pandemic. Space is, yeah, we're adequately supplied with space. Honestly, if I had more space, I know our component districts would be asking us to open up additional classrooms if we could staff them. So we're good right now, and looking forward to, you know, continuing to serve our students well and bringing on new staff members to keep programs in place and students served.
Can I ask what level of staffing are you needing to recruit? Are they teachers, social workers?
Yeah, great question, Mrs. Giro. So right now, we've recently interviewed to hire potentially, you know, 1.7 OT, so occupational therapists. We've been recruiting a BCBA since the beginning of the school year, but that's more of an itinerant service. That's not an in-house program. We are holding interviews next week to hire one social worker. We have a really strong pool of candidates for that. And then our largest pool to hire is our teacher and student aides. And as new students come on, you can see that number jump from 170 to 180.5 within 1 month. Many of those students, those 10 and a half students, have the supports of a one-on-one aide. So then it's working with Mr. Bell's department in HR and recruiting and hiring strong, candidates to fill those IEP services.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question.
All right, so we want to give a glimpse into the two divisions to give where are we starting our budget process? That was the goal of the conversation, because if we're starting our budget in a whole, we're having different conversations 2 months from now. But if we're starting in a surplus, kind of the way we are now, granted, CV Tech's different because of enrollment averaging, in a strong spot, it helps us going into budget season for sure. So some positive news there to share coming from the divisions. Now moving to our next topic, we'd like to take an opportunity to look into the Instructional Services Center COSERs. Instructional Services Center doesn't exist anymore. That's all part of our discussion of branding. But for now, we're going to call it our Instructional Services Center budgets and really give assistance with an opportunity to discuss any changes that we're looking at, anything that we discussed last year in Budget Committee, really highlight some of those items in that, those COSERs through ISC.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Bell. Thank you, everyone, for my first Budget Committee meeting. So mostly what I will be sharing is what I've learned about the instructional services budget. And the first thing is I have a lot more to learn. What I can tell you and what I can see just from our own data is that we're very fortunate that even through the pandemic, while we may not have been able to offer all of the services or some of the things may have limited what we could do in some of our more noticeable services like school improvement, which is all of our workshops, our COSERs there's more people buying into our COSERs than before. Like when I look at this sheet, I've got more boxes that were previously empty that now have X's in them. So I think that's a good sign. Districts see that we provide services that they can use. One of the things I know you've seen through the board process and other financial things is we have had to increase our library media services budget several times already because of the volume and number of what are referred to as databases that schools are purchasing through us. That's those databases are actually, when I first started learning about all of this many years ago, I was like, database, oh, you mean like the, CQ reports and the facts on file, right? So back in the day, it was binders in the library. Well, now we can cooperatively purchase all sorts of technological programs and software programs that schools and that really they needed. And you may remember that in March of 2020, several companies gave lots of schools free usage of their programs because they, schools needed them to provide instruction, to connect with students. Well, 3 to 6 months after that lockdown, when we started coming back to school last fall, those were no longer free. And yet schools had come to depend on them and rely on them. So that's where we were able to step in and provide those supports. Additionally, our instructional technology COSER has blossomed in the most positive way. We've talked about in our division that schools, yes, they get a benefit from buying from us because they do have some aidability, but if the product isn't really good, then why would they want to buy from us? Because it's not always just the cheapest, it's got to be the best. And our instructional technology has proven that time and again. We picked up a couple of districts and we've already had, we picked up districts before July, and then we've already picked up another district, which has allowed us to hire another network and systems tech for the southern part, which is what we really want. We want people who live and are part of the community near our southern districts and to be an active member of that. So, and we hired that person, and specifically because one district needed a lot of support, but we knew we would have some room to go into another district. And I don't think the person hadn't even started yet, and we were already getting calls from some of our southern districts asking if they could get a day of service. So that is wonderful. And now we also have districts here that are now inquiring where they're at. They've already made their commitments for this year, but they're already inquiring, what are we going to do next year? And will we have capacity to be able to support them? So, so that's really exciting, because I think we provide a really good hands-on personal service to those districts. The other thing that is the other piece of our COSER that is we're kind of rebuilding is our instructional planning COSER, which is part of our data support for districts. With no state exams in 2020 and then reduced state exams last year, we are fortunate that districts are still buying into the COSER, and we are going out to districts and we're providing them help with their local data, also looking at the limited state data they were provided, and being an active part of voice for them as we start to develop what's going to happen next. Because there's a lot of things happening at the state. We're wondering what's going to happen with that data. And so we're actively part of that. So that's another positive. Perhaps one of the other big changes we've had is in our grants management COSER. We've hired 2 additional staff because the volume of work there has been so great. Last year, our grants procurement supervisor was able to secure 2 competitive grants for 2 different districts. And those are $150,000 to $350,000 a year for 5 years to support additional student programming, after school, and build community partnerships. So that was quite a coup for us, and that COSER we will continue to promote. Right now, though, we're maxed out on staff and districts, so we would have to look at reapportioning things if that was to grow some more, although we would want to. I do think that's a COSER that it would benefit a district to be part of. It's right now, when we talk about social emotional health of all of our staff, having that additional responsibility on someone would be something that we could help support and perhaps cost the district a little less money. So we're working to promote that. I think that's the highlights. The other big thing that we're doing is we understand that our school improvement COSER 506 is really about how many workshops can we offer and how many people can we get in the door. And if not in the door, the other thing we're looking at, because we know there's a sub shortage, we know it's difficult to have teachers out of the classroom, but Sarah Paquette and I are working diligently to come up with alternative ways to offer workshops that don't require people necessarily to come in the building during the school day. And we've also developed a partnership with Wish We BOCES in model schools, with the goal to have our own model schools COSER for next year, but to do that in collaboration with them so that we're offering the highest quality. The other thing that had an impact this year that happened, is my understanding, is a year ago at Budget Committee, the decision was made that you have to buy into our COSERs in order to purchase through the COSER. That's really important. As I am learning, we have 16 districts, sounds like a lot, but when 1 or 2 of them don't buy into the base fee, it really starts to eat away at what we can do on a daily basis and provide. So if everyone chips in together, we can do so much more, because we're just spreading that out. And when it comes to things like professional development and technology and those foundational pieces that provide quality instruction for students, sharing that, especially in a region where our schools range in size the way they do, and that we can be that resource for them, is really important. So that's what I've learned. I don't know if there's anything else.
Learned and left. Learned and left.
Yeah, so I just want to commend Mrs. Campbell and our team. Not only did we move and relocate management services as well, and we're in a phenomenal new facility, that a lot of planning and upheaval to get here, but a lot of hard work. And with that being said, now we're starting to, again, host events. The fact is, I think people have been really needing and want to have some sort of more personal interaction. The virtual works, but it's not as strong in that interpersonal. We are interpersonal beings. And I think those in-person events really will make a big difference as well. But your team, I know Ms. Paquette is new as well, and the rest of your team has adjusted to their new setting, but also working very hard to meet the needs as well as we have. in a virtual setting and in a hybrid model, but now excited to move forward. So I think I'm looking forward to us moving forward, but also for the opportunities that are going to continue to blossom.
Thank you. Yes, it's an incredible team. And what I love about working with them is they all do see that it would be very easy to kind of sit back and say, well, schools should be purchasing from us. But instead it's like, no, we want to offer them the best quality product. And we have great people in this department.
And the last piece I'll share, and this is more so of this has come up during our chief school officer conversation. I know, Mr. Bell, you were part of those conversations over the past year. There's been a strong level of support by our chief school officers to acknowledge that they're seeing that we're working hard to support them. This is not just, we're trying to support, just the continuation of the BOCES. We're actually trying to provide better services, and they see it and they recognize it, and they're also pleased about the improvements. So thank you. And
Any questions for the team?
somebody will get my charger, my battery just died.
How we booted you off.
Yeah, that's right.
So thank you, Dr. Davies, for those comments. I would agree. It's refreshing to have superintendents' first instinct being, let's call CVES BOCES first. Let's see what they can do for us versus trying to find something else. And the calls that we're getting now are refreshing to show that they're appreciative, but also approving, and their needs are being met when they do make those calls. And I feel like that's our part of our purpose here at CVES. So moving to the management services coasters updates, I'll try to be brief. Our cafeteria coaster took on Plattsburgh City School District this year. Anytime we take on a new district, it's a challenge and a heavy lift. It's been going well. We added a new employee to that coaster, so it's a 3-person coaster model. Dr. Davey did initiate a conversation with another district in our BOCES. And then the coaster team and myself met with that district just this week to discuss potentially adding them in December. So we're potentially adding another district to that coaster. We also have a slight interest from a district outside of our BOCES interested in that coaster as well. So a lot of things in play with the cafeteria coaster at this time, but it's really good to see that it's potentially expanding even more. We would be obviously looking at more support, whether it's school lunch manager, so on and so forth, whatever that position be, to keep this going. But the positive reaction from families, students, the impact it makes on student health, student behavior is powerful. And it's something that we want to see spread throughout the North Country and then spread throughout New York State is our ultimate goal. Other coasters, our personnel recruitment coaster actually did something special this year. We were able to get 15 districts to go in together on a large bus driver recruitment campaign. So we used our management services personnel recruitment coaster for that and tried to help and assist school districts in August and September recruit school bus drivers. So that was awesome to see the collaboration with our component school districts through that coaster. Also, our labor relations coaster started back up this year. So, reinventing that. We do have 6 districts in it currently. We're meeting with a district next week to potentially add them on now and support them this year. We've met and had discussions with district outside of our BOCES for next year, having them join the coaster. And we've also talked with Washington, Saratoga, Wishwe BOCES, their assistant superintendent, as well as their district superintendent, about having some of their districts join the coaster. They're interested in our services as well. So our model there is we have 6. That's a low number for that coaster. We knew it was going in. The goal was to get our director of labor relations well-trained, well-versed, get experience under his belt. And he's been doing a phenomenal job. And now it's going to be a sale of our services to other districts and continue to grow that coaster. So positive news there. And our benefit coordination office through our health insurance and workers' comp consortium coordination coaster has been doing a great job. This is their first full year. So they started on the job a year ago. Right about now is when we hired our director of benefits. And they're doing great work for us. Lastly, our GASB 75 coaster, I always love to bring it up. We do service 49 districts. We service 49 districts in our coaster. So across the state, it's one of our largest number of districts we serve, and one that we're very proud of and continue to meet the needs across New York State. Any questions on managed services coasters?
That's it? That's.
Yeah,
My God.
we haven't mentioned COVID yet, so this is good.
39, really?
Yeah.
Who in the office oversees all of that?
Brenda,
I'm just curious.
Brenda Peru is our day-to-day contact for it. It was our accountant, Kara Taylor, and she left. So it was Brenda. Our goal was Brenda to transition away from her, went to Kara, Kara left, and our goal was to get the new accountant up and running on it. She now left. So our goal will be with this new accountant to transition the duties at some point in time. We're keeping with Brenda Peru because of the stability factor when you have that many districts. And she's a primary point of contact. We have support in that coaster around, but that's the head person that those districts reach out to. Yes. Yeah, a little unknown fact about the payroll clerk in our.
39 districts too, yeah. And
Yeah.
like you would know. That's awesome.
So, Mr. Bell, I apologize, I just came back. With that, when you talked about the health insurance consortium, did you reference the amount of savings with our benefits office?
Good enough, so please.
So I'd just like to acknowledge that our health benefits office is something that had been a goal of our consortium for a long time. Just a reminder, our consortium has about 4,500 policies, meaning individuals with policies, and some of those policies may have a family, which is more than one, and it's about 10,000 lives. So it is a very good sized consortium. There was a dependent audit, as well as a double checking of all the different procedures and the finances. And through that eligibility audit, our consortium, our benefits office actually came up and identified about $1.5 million in savings. That's a significant, adjustment and an acknowledgement of them working closely with our component districts, with their staff, and really identifying and streamlining and making sure that things that are in place that need to be, and then supporting our districts. So our benefits office has been a huge addition and support for our health insurance consortium. And so that's really very positive. So I just want to give that team and Mr. Bell kudos. Ms. Giroux, Vicki Giroux has done a great job, as well as our staff, to make sure that it's a very beneficial and value-added office. So thank you.
Thank you. There are no questions. We're going to move and talk now. So you've heard about kind of where our position is as CVES BOCES in our current year, give you a global overview of what we're doing, how it's going. Now we want to talk about what are we seeing early on for our component districts. What's the impact of the environment out there? What are we seeing? What are we planning for? Because when our districts are impacted and how they're impacted impacts the services we provide. So we like to keep a very close eye on this. And I think it's important, as I know you guys are all committed, invested with those component districts as well. So first item I wanted to discuss, or we wanted to discuss, was fully funding foundation aid. And Governor Hochul came out and made the promise and that they're going to fully fund foundation aid. I didn't have the actual data, and it took me a little while to do it. But one of our districts called, the business official called and said, our board is thrilled, they're over the moon, so happy that we're going to get all this foundation aid, but I don't think we're going to get any. And so I said, well, there's an easy way to tell, and we looked it up for them. And that district was what you would call on safe harmless, which means that their foundation aid formula, when run fully, meant that they were overfunded. And overfunded in quotes, because that's a determination by the formula. What that means is that they are already fully funded. So when the governor says we're going to fully fund foundation aid, it means you as a district who already is fully funded, you will get due minimum increases. So as a district who is fully funded, your fight isn't fully fund the formula. Your fight becomes, let's have a higher due minimum to those districts who are already fully funded. So this sheet here was based on 1920, when they looked at the budget for 1920. And I know it's a little bit old, but the data is pretty close. There's not really much shifting. And what you can see here is a district in the highlighted column is positive. That means they are fully funded. If it is negative, that means they are not fully funded in foundation aid. So when the governor makes that statement, What it means for our component districts is 4 districts should be celebrating. That's it. And some of those gaps aren't as big as what they were before, because you may recall in 21-22 budget, they did have a commitment to funding foundation aid, which closed the gap for those 4 districts to be even smaller. Again, I don't have the updated data with us, but the important thing to note is most of our districts are fully funded. A heavy majority of our districts are. So the windfall of money that people may think is coming on foundation aid is not coming to those districts. Important to note, we want to put it out there.
So, and it was just shared today at my district superintendent's meeting that across New York State, 42% of the districts are unsafe harmless. So 42% of the districts are already fully funded in the state. And so you look at a majority of ours and what, why is that the case, as you mentioned? That's because of enrollment drops. The reimbursement has essentially been maintained without an adjustment due to the lack of the lesser enrollment. So that's really, important for our districts to at least to understand that, because, if there are formula changes, there could be significant impacts for the future.
Yep, so as CVES and Dr. David leads our advocacy, our push will be, thank you very much, we're very happy. They should be fully funded. However, don't forget our districts who are unsafe harmless. And that, from the data, will be one of our big pushes for our component districts. Before I move away from foundation aid, any questions on foundation aid?
Just a reminder that just because they don't want to go any higher for more money, the costs have not held harmless. The costs are rising exponentially.
Yeah.
And until they learn to match the numbers, they need to get their act together. They need to go back to school for math.
So, Ms. Saunders, you make some great points. And the next item we're going to talk about is CPI and the tax cap. And talk about some of where the tax cap got its name that was false, but we're going to be talking about a 2% tax cap in this upcoming year. You've heard inflation is through the roof. You just mentioned it. Costs are soaring. CPI is up. The next sheet you'll see, I think it was over 4% at that time. It could be as high as 5% by the end of the year. However, when this was created, this tax cap was created as part of that formula. There's multiple pieces to this. One of those pieces is your tax levy will increase by 2%, by the CPI or 2%, whatever is less. So the most they can increase is 2% for that portion of the formula. So that's a big limiting factor for school districts as costs and inflation goes up. And salaries, we've all heard the salaries in our component districts and what negotiation levels are at because of minimum wage going up, because of federal money coming into school districts, plus inflation, where salaries are. Districts can't meet that because that cap on their tax increase for that portion of the formula will be 2%. Now, there's other pieces that go into it, tax-based growth factor, capital exclusions, BOCES capital exclusion. There's various pieces to that formula. But one, which is what I would deem as a very critical one, not influenced by other factors that are happening in your district, expenses or changes to your tax base, this is capped at 2%, which is, in the grand scheme of things, it's the highest it could be. So I guess it's a positive, but realize that when it's that low compared to CPI, it's not overall. Next, looking at health insurance, a big piece of our cost increases over the years, it has been health insurance. That's maybe just sort of director member of our health insurance consortium. He votes on the rate changes, on the rate increases. I am fortunate enough to serve on our advisory committee. The advisory committee makes recommendations to the board on rate increases. As part of that discussion, one of the things we look at, just like we're doing today, is where are we right now? So why I shared the overall health insurance consortium report. Yes, we have 45 million, almost 46 million in unassigned fund balance. That's fantastic news. But the highlight I want to point out to you is when we're setting budget, we look at how are our expenses tracking. So when you look at the expense category and you look at those items, where are we? In the big ones are medical claims and prescription drug claims. At this point in the year, we're a quarter of the way through. It should be 25% or less. We are at 20% and 21% of medical claims and prescription drug claims. That is huge. That is fantastic news in the first quarter of the year in a consortium that has its highest cost months are July and August, because that's when the actives, at least, the majority of our actives are not working, and they schedule most of their surgeries, their doctor's appointments, their medical treatments. They usually try to schedule those during the breaks. So we typically see first quarter being high, at or above budget even. So very positive news there. So when we're setting budget, we already know, at least at this point in time, we got to see the next quarter, then we set budget. We're starting from a very strong financial position. And then we do look at premium income. Premium income's at 24.45%, so about 0.5% below budget. That we tend to see from migration of plans. So whether it's moving from plan 1 to plan 2, or districts are hiring less staff is another opportunity, or less people are taking health insurance. We do tend to see that from time to time, but again, that's 0.5% below budget. So really good position as we go into budget times. I can't predict what that percentage is going to be. We rely heavily on our consultants to tell us what the trends are in the market. They look at our actual data and then they give us recommendations at that time. But what I will tell you is at this point in time, it's looking like it would be favorable, and I would suspect a lower percent increase on our health insurance costs.
Right, and Mr. Bell, the only other point I'd make too, and you touched upon, the current year to date and that the trend is looking good. I'd also ask our board members to look at the bottom, which includes the ending balance, which also is the unrestricted net assets, to share that, there was a time when our finances for our consortium were dangerously low. As the adjustment and the pandemic moved forward, I know there was some slowdown in use of the health insurance because there were certain surgeries that were less active, but our reserves at this time are healthy, which I think is really positive. Although you want to be cautious because they turned the other way very quickly a few years ago. So it's really important to know that as we're continuing to move forward, we're being very cost conscious to make sure that we maintain a good financial picture, but we also have a long-term plan financially to look at some cost savings and other things that we can do. For example, with a good reserve, you can always not pay for the cost of having the insurance for the pooling, and where you actually, you provide your own reserve to be able, instead of paying $3 or $4 million in case you go over a certain amount of claims, you can actually fund your own. So it's a way to, really bet with a house, so to speak. So I know there's good financial advice that's happening. Our consortium consultants have been outstanding. And so, thank you, Mr. Bell, for your team and your leadership and the advisory board for everyone's work, because it's a team effort.
Thank you, Dr. I'm really happy you brought that up, because even on this 2.5 years ago, June 2019, we were at 2.8 million. Bottom line number, 2.8 million.
That was
2.5 years ago.
That was our cash reserve in the health insurance consortium. And I use the analogy then because this includes retirees, it includes employees, it includes all bargaining units. So every employee who has a plan and all of our former employees who are retired, we're all in the same health insurance consortium. And I know our team has heard me use the analogy that we're all in the same lifeboat. So we're facing the ocean of all these expenses, and it's to our mutual benefit to be able to have a very sound financially strong health insurance consortium to provide high quality health insurance for us all and our families.
This is remarkable. Look at that progression, Aaron, from 18, 19. Well, everybody was facing. It really is remarkable.
Next item, not as glamorous of news, but okay news. Retirement system. They have announced that their rates will be between 10% and 10.5%. Currently, it's at 9.8%. So slight increase there. always like to put it in perspective, put some numbers to it. What's that mean for CVES? Our TRS salaries are around $10 million. So 1% of that would be $100,000, 0.5%, $50,000. So we typically do get that number January, February timeframe. So we'll have numbers to put into our budget. We'll build our budget based off from 10.5% and go from there. The interesting piece to this is they changed their rate of returns have been fantastic. The plan's actually doing great, really strong financial position, but an actuary changed their rate of return that was assumed from 7.1 to 6.95, which means that they are in less of a strong position, so they increased the rate. So that's how things work with the retirement system, and it is a reason why CVES has been funding a TRS reserve and an ERS reserve, and the board has made a commitment without Davy's recommendations to continue to fund our TRS reserve because we have zero control over that. An actuarial firm changed that rate, and that could cost CVES almost $100,000. And we had nothing to do with it. So important that we build reserves as an organization. I thank the board for that. I thank Dr. Davy for his leadership on that. And it's one that insulates us and helps us. Right now, it's a small percent, but it could be much larger in the future.
Right, and Mr. Bell, and I know it's not referenced in the materials, but I also want to thank you and the leadership of our workers' compensation consortium, which is aligned with our health insurance consortium. I happen to be the chairperson of that consortium, but the work of our consultant, the work of our districts, the long-term planning, there were lengthy and in-depth audits that were done with financial projections to make sure that we're in a good place. We actually found a few, not discrepancies, but a few areas that we needed to really focus on and make some financial adjustments to strengthen our financial position. So our workers' compensation consortium also has healthy reserves, several $1 million, as I'm recalling off the top. So well done for that as well. And I think it's important for the board to know that not only is our health insurance consortium really been strong, but also our workers' compensation consortium too. When an employee gets hurt and they continue to have support well before they return to work. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davy. Next is ERS, Employee Retirement System. This is all our non-certified employees. And I should have went back. TRS is our Teacher Retirement System. Certified employees, every dollar they make times that percent is what CVES pays. ERS, Employee Retirement System, is through the State Comptroller's Office. Every penny that a non-certified employee at CVES makes, we pay a percent of their salary. Now, ERS gets very complicated. There are multiple tiers. There's in our organization, we are down to, I'm pretty sure we just have tier 4, 5, and 6 in our organization. I'm trying to visualize the bill. Tier 4, 5, and 6. All tiers have a different rate set to them. ERS will tell us a blended rate. The blended rate for last year on average across the state was 16.2%. I can tell you CVES's blended rate was about 15.8. So we were a little bit less, which is great news for us. What it means is we have more people in tiers 5 and 6 than your typical organization. So when we see 16.2 to 11.6, we want to, first off, I gotta let you know what does 1% mean, right? So we should start there. So we're about $5 million is a good round number. Again, I'm rounding just so we can have easy math. So every 1% is $50,000 to CVES. So when you see a 4.5% decrease, that's cause for celebration, right? That's $200,000 plus. That is going to help us during budget time. I absolutely, this is a big positive for us. We have to be cautious because if we go all the way to 11.6, that's not necessarily our rate. So as a team, what we do is we dive into these different tiers, the multiple tiers, and we set a rate to build the budget off from. That could end up more around the 12.5% range, depending on what our numbers are looking like for this year. Still, even if you're at 12.5 or even a 13, very positive going into the budget season. A 3% decrease in our budget is going to offset that 1% increase on the TRS side. So you figure that's almost a wash. So very positive news. What we're looking at from a benefit side, that CVES, again, we don't control that. This is all part of the retirement benefit that goes with our employees to be paid to them, and we pay a percent of their salary. So this will help in our budget process. Think of it as a slight net benefit at this point in time. Next item is, it's not on the list. Negotiations is typically where we update here the budget development factor. We are negotiating with our CSEA unit actively. Their contract expired June 30th of 2021. And they wanted to put a hold on conversations that happened last school year. Those have fired back up. We did meet with them today, and we'll give the board an update at our next meeting. And then potentially come December timeframe, we may know that contract, December board meeting or the January board meeting. So that will help us into building budgets. When we think of our CSEA group, they are currently 72 members strong. They will most likely go up to over 80 as we hire more teacher aides, student aides. That's the largest piece of that group. They also have cook managers, food service helpers, cooks, and lifeguard as part of that group. We have job placement aides as well. I think we only have one of those in our whole organization. So all 10-month employees, but those are ongoing active discussions. We bring it up because we want to note that in that group, we just mentioned that there's 73 right now. I'm not sure I quoted it right now. I might have said 72 on accident, but there's 73 currently in that group. Of the 73, 40 of them will be under minimum wage if we gave no increase in pay for this school year. Minimum wage is going up, if you had not seen it, to $13.20 as of December 31st, 2021. So as of January 1 of the new year, calendar year, we'd have 40 individuals in that group that would be under minimum wage. So clearly there's going to be salary increases to that group. That hand is being forced of the CVS board to give that increase. And so we know going into budget that those cost increases will be a greater percent than typical. Now, flashback to reviewing our budget from last year and how we ended the year. One of our strongest budgets in special education last year was our teacher aid, student aid budget. It had a pretty good surplus in it. So that's a positive piece, is that, you know, we're transitioning from a good budget position. We're dealing with contractual raises that the board's hand will be forced by minimum wage and moving forward. But it also may help our recruitment efforts because we are recruiting, and a higher salary could be a benefit. Lastly, we also have our confidential group up. Their contract's up at the end of this school year, June of 2021. A much smaller group, less than 10 individuals in that group. So it's much smaller impact as we build our budget. But that will be an unknown as we do build a budget.
Right, and for Mrs. Boyce, Mrs. Giro, and Mrs. Saunders, we will be giving a full negotiations update in our upcoming board meetings, executive session. Not only to review, because it's been a while since we did talk about CSEA parameters, but let the board know where we are and you know, what the recommendations are that are being discussed. So thank you.
I'll tell you that. This sounds horrible. Not good budget. I'm less concerned with the minimum wage than I am our loss to the districts of our aides. It's like they come here, they get trained. We haven't paid our aides equitably, I think is the word I'm looking for. Anyway, sufficiently to prevent them from going to the districts. So we sit here and we're dying for aides, but we're training them, we're giving them experience, and then the districts. And I know of one district that does very well by their aides. My own district, it has its moves, but most of the districts are just barely beating us. But when you're making minimum wage barely, just barely beating us is a lot of money. So just something to keep in, you know, I've done negotiations. I think it's important to save money. do the best you can, but let's not shoot ourselves in the foot.
Well, we'll provide the board a comparison of where the aid salaries are for our component districts. And Mr. Bell can assist us with that so that the board can see that we're working to be fair and also recognize the important work that they do. So we acknowledge that. Thank you.
Just something that.
Any questions on budget development factors from the committee?
I think you've done an amazing job, all of you.
And I want to commend our team. Not only, with Ms. Campbell, who's joined us, but Mrs. Friedman, career at CV Tech, and Mr. Slattery, our special ed division, Mr. Bell, not only management services, but working as the BOCES and managing our capital project. I know there's a brief capital project update as well, but to do this simultaneously amid a pandemic, still move forward, and still make progress and continue to have high quality programs and services, it's really a testament to the leadership in our team and our principals and our staff for working hard.
One of the best things they do, Dr. Daly, is it's understandable. You are not speaking in another language. And if I can understand it, the average person, yes. So I deeply, deeply appreciate that, because now when I go home, when I go to the parking lot at Hayward, somebody grabs me by the shirt and says, what about, I can actually answer them because I understand it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that feedback. Next is our capital project update. I'll dive in and that Dave, I'll pass to you to fill in. We want to let the budget committee know and that we are progressing towards the finish of our phase one of our $29.85 million capital project. Our last finishing touches are still ongoing on all three campuses that were under construction. So our main campus, our satellite campus, north and south building, and our Mineville campus all still have active construction going on. So we're still wrapping it up. Our push is to finish everything by December 1st. We're targeting some Veterans Days and Thanksgiving holiday days off. There's some big construction items in campus where students won't be, as well as on Staff Development Day on November 12th. We're going to take advantage of all those days to really wrap up the work that was part of that phase one project. Close out our contracts with our prime contractors, our 6 primes, we close them out. We have contracts with Tetra Tech, we have contracts with Schoolhouse Construction. We want to close all those items out, get everything finished and cleaned up. And we've begun a discussion for a phase 2 capital project. And what we want to just share with this budget committee, as presented at the board meeting a couple meetings ago, we're looking at, we don't have a final budget number. That's going to depend on closeout of this current phase of the project. But we're starting to target leftover money of about $5 million to use towards construction in a phase 2. But beyond that, we have what we deem our mini capital project funds in our annual capital budget. We've increased that over the last couple of years to try to maximize what we can do for work on site. I will say that's going to be a topic of discussion as we go into this budget season. We have ISC that's coming off our books even more. So the 21-22 budget at $20,000 for ISCs. You think it's not a lot of money, but I will tell you it means a lot of money to that capital budget. If we were to give that $20,000 back to districts, it comes off their tax cap. It's part of our BOCES capital exclusion in their tax cap formula, which means it would be a negative to their tax cap. It would come off from the tax revenue they can collect. The other option is, in one that we've discussed and want to do, is move that $20,000 from rent to capital projects. So increase that by $20,000 more and give us, approximately $430,000 to $450,000 in construction budgets annually. And what we do with that is look to pair up 3 years of construction money. And instead of having $5 million, we're looking at closer to $6.25 million, $6.5 million, and we can do even more work. We know the list is there. We know our facilities advisory committee gave that list to us. Those needs didn't go away, and we need to be creative in finding ways to fund those needs and get that work done. So looking at trying to pair our local capital construction budgets through our admin and capital budget with that extra $5 million to make it even a larger project to meet the needs of CVS and our facilities. So that's going to be part of our discussion as we move forward. We want to bring it up today. We'll put numbers on paper for this committee as we move forward. And a big driver of that is that BOCES capital exclusion. You may come to us and say, well, we have needs. Why don't we increase that more? That's a bigger conversation now than it ever would be because of that BOCES capital exclusion. And in a year where the 2% tax cap we know will be at 2%, and with the other factors probably above it, local boards will be more hesitant to go out at the full amount. So if our BOCES capital exclusion increase, that means that above 2% number is even further above 2%. Typically not a good time to have that in front of the taxpayers. If we're in a year where CPI is low, which we had a couple of years ago, it was at 0.25, and your tax cap for districts are now 0.5, 1%. We may then have that discussion to say, here's our needs component districts. Or 450 isn't going to get it done. Would you support more? And that, I think, has to be our goal long-term to avoid a voter-approved capital project and keep that in our mind. Now, like I said, wouldn't be the best time because it would put those districts in a bad spot. It's not a conversation we've had with our component, but it's something that we want to put on your radar to say, long-term, we have to keep that in mind. If there is a low CPI year, we may be talking about increasing capital construction costs, and that would help the BOCES capital exclusions in the districts and increase their tax caps at that time. So that's our position right now. Like I said, we'll give you more numbers on what our local budget is. The board will have to make a decision on that. If we are going to transition that ISC rent money into the construction budget, but it is one that I know Dr. Davey, myself and our team support, and will help give the board information as we move forward. Dr. Davey, anything else you want to add to construction?
No, other than I would just make one final comment, is that the amount of work that's been done throughout this project has been amazing. The fact that we're sitting in the middle of what used to be an aircraft hangar. And I remember having a meeting in this space with people spread out with jet engines all around us and a ceiling 40 feet high or 50 feet high. So with that being said, to transition us from an instructional services center that we were renting from TDC for between 30 and 40 years, to coming on this campus, to planning, to renovating, to have construction occur for over an entire year. It's been an amazing transformation, and we're excited to continue and to look at the phase 2 items that were initially put on hold, that were identified as being important. So it's been a comprehensive process, but a lot of hard work. Mr. Bell, your team, yourself, our construction managers, our architects, our contractors. It's been a very well-organized process, and there's been a lot of hard work, a few bumpy spots along the way, but it's been done well. And the leadership of our team sitting here in this room, you've had input. You've been part of the conversation. You've made adjustments as needed. So it's been a team effort, and I can't thank you and our team, our staff and administrators, and our O&M team too has gone above and beyond. So it really has shown, and I'm so proud to be part of this organization, to be helping lead it, but also to help see the changes and improvements that are happening, because they're great for the future and for our programs and our students moving forward. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Davey. Any questions from the committee on facilities capital project update?
And for our board members, I just want to acknowledge too, it was your encouragement and your support along the way that's allowed this all to happen and move forward. So I thank, Mrs. Boyd, you've been there every step of the way. Mrs. Saunders, you've been there every step of the way. And Mrs. Giro, you've been a supporter, especially since you joined the board. So we're so pleased that our board has been so actively involved as well. It's important and it makes a difference.
Again, I go back to, you all made it understandable. Because I'll be honest with you, when you guys were saying 20 to 30 million, I was like, but then you pulled it together for me and explained it everything, because I remember the very first meeting we had about capital project. You weren't there. It's probably a good thing. It was rough. But then again, just, I can't remember the date that you snap things together. Anyway, you snap things together and it was better than a puzzle because you didn't have to worry about pieces flying off the table. It was all, I asked a question of you, I asked a question of you, any of you. Or Michelle, every time I went down to see her, something was exploding. So, you know, no, we're serious, aren't we, Michelle? Just, you know, so I think it's amazing to think about that.
That team effort. So thank you all. And thank you, Mr. Bell, for helping your team putting this all together and for everyone's support to make it possible.
Yeah, we got a great team. Honestly, I wouldn't want to do a capital project anywhere else. I wouldn't want to do a budget committee with any other team, and we got a good group, and Dr. Davey, your leadership as well as help guide the ship. So
Thank you.
thank you. And our next meeting is November 30th. We have on here or virtual. We'll leave that up to the committee's discussion with Dr. Davey and everyone.
So can we just say, I know Ms. Giro, Ms. Boyce, do you have any questions at all? Or any feedback or anything you'd like to add before we adjourn?
No, I think it, I think Eric, you always do a wonderful job in the presentation of the information to us. And somebody who's a novice board member, I think you explain it very well, and all of you do. So I really commend all of you for your efforts and what you've achieved, especially with the building project. It's been amazing to see it actually occur and how it's all seemed so seamless. I haven't actually seen a lot of the building, but it just, from presentations, it just looks wonderful. I know that's going to be such a wonderful asset to the students that are going to be able to be part of that.
Well, thank you. And we look forward to having you be part of it as well here. Thank you. Mrs. Boyce, anything that you'd like to add? I think we're okay.
She's going mute, unmute. She's coming.
Okay.
Now I'm getting it.
There we go.
I can see him mute and unmute.
Hello, Mrs. Boyce.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, it was like stuck. I couldn't get it to work. I felt like, okay, first time with technology. I've been a part of the board for a long time, and I've been a part of this committee for a long time, and it's actually nice to see the, I guess everybody that's working together nonstop to truly bring forth the best possible budget that benefits both the districts as well as the students is amazing. We know that this is not an easy task by any way, shape, or form. Budget season's always the ones that I think that we cringe and say, oh, can we make it? Oh, please, just, please don't throw any more fire into the, or any more wood into the fire. But you guys have done an excellent job. Your presentation was done very well by all of you. You're very confident in where you sit, and as we move forward, I think your ability and your leadership, it truly stands out. And I thank you and I commend you all for the job that you do. It is not an easy task, and especially for the situation and the circumstances that we've been under for the last couple of years. You guys have stayed steady and strong to ensure that the best possible education can be given to all of our students, and the best possible services can be given to the entire district. So thank you again for all of your hard work. It really means a lot, and I'm proud to be part of this board.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. So anything else for the good of the order, Mr. Bell? Or Mrs. Saunders, anything you'd want to add?
No. I'm ready for the school bus driver course. I know a lot of retired vets that might be interested, but they're afraid of it.
Okay. And I want to thank Mrs. Gerald and Mrs. Boyce as well for, being patient with us while we work through the technological, the process. I heard today if we didn't have a few technical bumps, it wouldn't be normal right now. But I will share, because this system is fully operational, as Mr. Bell is getting fully operational. Tomorrow, our sound team will be here coming up from Albany, so they'll be all hands on deck. So they're really double checking and making sure the system works. And today when Mr. Bell was loading the computer, it was saying it was like a reboot for the entire system, because they've been making improvements to make sure it's fully operational. So we really are coming online right now, just so you're aware that we appreciate your patience though too. And thank you for being part of this. So thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
So could we get a screenshot of everybody on the screen, Mr. Bell? Would that be, and have everybody let's see.
Are you doing it on yours?
Yeah, so if Mrs. Boyce and Ms. Gerald could stay on, Ms. Campbell, maybe you can turn your.
Maybe the three of us can all be on.
So
6 feet distance, but Campbell.
there we go. Okay. All right, on three. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hang on one. Sorry. I got it. One more time. That was the big one. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, super. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Okay,
See you next week.
good night. Okay.
Good night, everybody.
New
Bye.
dashboards.
See you next week. I'll have my
About, and if you want to know how many COVID related.
So. Wow. So. Sure. And Jim Dexter today was talking about, test and stay, try to come up with a model where they could actually test kids if they were on quarantine. If they're not positive, they stay. And Jim was saying in Saratoga, I guess their director of health is an epidemiologist, and he's well known by the CDC. So they're trying to really ramp it up. But Jim Dexter said, this is going to be impossible to do. He said, one of our districts has 2,300 students. And last week on one day, they had 435 students on quarantine, and they had a handful of positives. 435 students in one day on quarantine, and a handful of positives, maybe 7 or 8 or 9. But so, Mr. Bell. So my rubber band broke. So I started laughing. Did you hear me? Because I actually said something. Yeah, but hopefully nobody heard me. Because I went to put it on here, and it snapped in it almost hit me in the face. And I said something under my breath, and I'm like, oh.
That's why I was big talking. I saw it.
So here's the cord. So it's on the back. Okay, I'm going to put it in there. There's no rubber band, but okay, yeah. So
Try to return it, please.
yeah, hopefully.
Awesome. This will help me if I plan on doing work on calendars.
Okay. So when are you back? Okay.
Yep, I present Friday morning, and I'm a moderator throughout the whole thing, introducing people and everything like that. So,
Nice.
Friday morning I'll present if we get done around.
Okay, have a good night. Yeah, you better get home before they go to bed. They're up waiting for you. It's late. Mrs. Saunders, are you okay walking out? Is your husband out here? Okay. Mr. Slattery, thank you. Mrs. Friedman, thank you.